Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ask Huda. I'm your host Jamil Rashid, and I'd like to welcome back today Sheikh Asim bin Luqman Al-Hakeem. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khair for being with us, Sheikh.
Jazakumullah khair.
Okay, let's remind our brothers and sisters, our viewers, our telephone numbers. Our country code is 202 38555 248 or 249. Should be on the bottom of your screens. And ask is at huda.tv is our email address. Just two notices. The first, as usual, the same notice. Please, if you do call us today, turn down your television sets. And the second is, please do call us early. Okay, Sheikh, I'd like to start with a question from Brother Kaleem. He's asking about itikaf. Is itikaf the same for both males and females in Islam?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala abdihi wa rasulihi al-ameen. Nabina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. The general trend is that women are exactly the same when it comes to forms of worship as men, unless it is specified otherwise. Therefore, women are exactly the same in i'tikaf as men. The only exception is that it is more recommended for men to go for i'tikaf in masjids, but it is much less recommended for women, because they are recommended to stay home. And a lot of people think that it is not permissible for women to go for i'tikaf in masjids. And this is not true. The wives of the Prophet ﷺ did make i'tikaf in the masjids in his life. Though he did not recommend it, but he did not prevent them in a sense. So it is permissible for them to go, but it is not recommended. And it's also wrong to say that women can make i'tikaf in their houses. No, this is not true. I'tikaf can only be performed in mosques.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, the first call of the day, Sister Ambreen from Oman. Sister, your life on Ask Huda, your question, please.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum, Sister. Could you just turn down your television sets for us, please? Okay. Seems like you've got a couple.
Okay, Sheikh, if a person has passed away, so can we give fidya on that person, and for the fasting which he hasn't done? And this fidya amount, can we pay it from zakat or sadaqah, or it will be a volunteer paying? I'm clear?
Yes, clear.
Okay, thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, just a quick reminder to all of you again, if you do call us, please turn down your television sets, because we get some interference. Okay, I've got a question here, Sheikh, from Brother Zafar, about the Taraweeh prayers. Now, he's just a bit confused about the different kind of ways of calling this night prayer. Is it Qiyam al-Layl? Is it Taraweeh? Are they the same? Are there different types? Tahajjud, is that one of the types of prayers?
Generally speaking, again, any prayer a Muslim performs after Isha prayer and before Fajr prayer, in this period of time, this is called night prayer. Now, if this is being performed during the nights of Ramadan, this is called Taraweeh. So you can call them both night prayer and Taraweeh, because they are being prayed in Ramadan. If your praying comes after a period of sleep, so let's say, for example, you sleep until 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. and then you wake up, whatever you pray before Fajr, this is called Tahajjud. So the general name is Qiyam al-Layl, night prayer. If you pray it in Ramadan, this is called Taraweeh. And if it precedes, if it comes after, that is, a period of sleeping, this is called Tahajjud.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Sister Ambreen's question. For the person who's passed away and you want to pay, they've missed some of their fasts, can you pay fidya for them, Sheikh? And if you can it be paid from zakah?
Well, if this person died and he was unable to fast, and he was terminally ill, then the fidya is due. Because if you cannot fast and you're terminally ill, as stated in the Quran, you should pay fidya, which is feeding a poor person per every day you miss. But if this person is not terminally ill and he just fell sick and died, then there is nothing, alhamdulillah, you have to do for him.
And what about paying from zakah? Can it be paid from zakah?
No, zakat cannot be paid except to 8 categories and on one purpose, and that is to purify your money.
Money, yeah.
So you cannot utilize it for hitting 2 or 3 birds with the same stone. You cannot give annually your zakat and say, well, listen, I'll pay this for my kids' tuition, schooling, or I'll pay this for my wife's operation, whatever, and I pay this and hit 2 birds with 1 stone. This is not permissible.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Okay, got a question here from Sister Saba. She's asking about praying on a chair, because she's not able to stand up while praying. She has a disability. She says, how do you go about praying when you're praying on a chair? How do you go about making the sujood? And this is the core of the question.
Before I address this question, I'd like to bring the attention of the viewers that there is a misconception among people who have problems in their knees or in their back. You find a brother coming into the masjid walking straight, mashallah, and he has no problem in walking. But the minute the prayer starts, he starts praying sitting down. And whenever you ask him, he says, well, I sit down because I cannot prostrate. I cannot go to the ground. Okay, this is something else. It is a pillar of prayer that you pray standing up. So if you are able to stand up and you insist on sitting down, your prayer is not valid if it is mandatory prayer. If it's voluntary, it's up to you. You can pray it standing up or sitting down. You have the choice. Even if you're well, you can still pray sitting down. But if it's a mandatory prayer and you can stand up and you refuse, you just say, I'm going to continue the whole prayer sitting down, your prayer is void. It's not valid. Having said that, if a person cannot prostrate, he should pray standing up. And when it comes to the prostration, he sits down and he kneels forward. That is all what he has to do. But he cannot start the prayer sitting down unless he's unable to stand. So if this sister is ill and she cannot stand, and she has this disability, well, alhamdulillah, she starts her prayer sitting down because she's unable. The Prophet says, alayhi salatu to the companion, pray standing up. If you cannot, pray sitting down. If you cannot, pray lying on your side. So it depends on your capability. She starts prayer sitting down as if she's standing up, Allahu Akbar. And when she bows a little bit forward a little bit. Sami Allahu liman hamdah. She sits erect again. And when she prostrates, she kneels a little bit further than the bowing position. And this is the way of doing it throughout the prayer.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. I've got a question from Brother Hakeem here. It's regarding the significance given to newborn babies and naming them. He says that, do they have to be given a Muslim name? Is this something which is required, a prerequisite for a Muslim child?
Well, you see, it's difficult to identify a Muslim name, because any name is as good as any other name, providing it has no connotation to a non-Muslim name, in the sense that it is not the servant of Jesus, for example, or the servant of Buddha. This is not acceptable. And it has to relate, it must not relate to their religion. So if it's a name that is only known to be given to Christians, or to the Jews, or to the non-Muslims, we cannot give this name to a Muslim. For example, you cannot give a Hindu name or a Sikh name to a Muslim. But other than that, any other name is okay. You don't have to have an Arabic name. It's preferable, it's recommended, but if your name is not, if your name is David, for example, David is as good as any other name. In Arabic, it's Dawood, the Prophet of Allah. So if your name is David, you don't have to, once you revert to Islam, change it into Dawood. Keep it as it is.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, I've got a second question here, and I think it's quite a wide question, but I'm sure you can, inshallah, enlighten us, Sheikh. The brother's asking, what's the best deeds to do in this Ramadan? We don't have much time left. As you know, we've got a couple of weeks. What's the best deeds? How can we get the best out of these last 15 days, Sheikh?
The sky is the limit. If you stay away from haram, this is the best deed, one of the best deeds that can be performed. The Prophet ﷺ advised one of his companions, and he said, stay away from haram and you would become the most pious person. So if you stay away from haram, this by itself is one of the best deeds you can do. Don't spend your time Don't you spend your days and nights watching TV, things that are not permissible? Watching movies, watching TV series, whatever. If you watch something that is beneficial like Huda channel, then this is good. Among the very best things that you can do during the nights of Ramadan, of course, is Taraweeh prayer. And a lot of the people don't pay a lot of attention to it. If you pray Taraweeh from the very beginning with the Imam until he concludes the last witr prayer, Allah will grant you the reward of praying the whole night. And that is from Isha prayer up till Fajr prayer. And if you do this every single night of Ramadan, Allah Azza wa Jal will forgive your sins. Now, you can't beat that. Again, one of the best deeds that you can do during the month of Ramadan is reciting the Quran, because Ramadan is the month of the Quran. So recite as much as you can from the Quran. Try to contemplate on it. Try to know the meanings of what Allah Azza wa Jal wants you to do from the Holy Quran. And also, among the very best things that you can do during the month of Ramadan, and by the way, the month of Ramadan is also the month of patience. So it is essential that a Muslim is tolerant and patient. Whenever he's called for good deeds, or whenever he is called for a sin, he's patient not to do it. And whenever a calamity strikes, he's patient in tolerating and accepting Allah's verdicts.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, I've got a question here from Sister Bint Athar. She's asking about praying behind a boy who hasn't reached the age of puberty yet. She said, is this allowed to be done?
Yes, if this boy knows what he's doing, in the sense that the Arabic terminology is mumayyiz. If he knows what to do and what to choose, yes, praying behind him is valid, because at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, one of the companions who was about 7 or 8 years old used to lead the prayer. He used to lead men and women alike, because he recited the most amount of Quran, more than anyone else. So this is permissible, but providing that this boy is solid in the sense that he knows what to choose and what to do. You don't want to start praying behind someone and after the second rak'ah he's on top of the chandelier or playing with the telephone or whatever. You want someone who knows what to do and what not to do, and this prayer inshallah is accepted.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, I've got a question here from Brother Salu. He's asking about salahs he's missed in the past. He says due to him not being very good in regard to coming into Islam and understanding some of the prerequisites of being a Muslim. He says after learning and finding out that he actually should have been praying all his life, he says, what do I do about these prayers, Sheikh? Do I have to make them all up? And if I do have to make up, how do I go about doing them, he says?
Well, that's very good of him to ask, because this shows that he's interested in seriously repenting to Allah Azza wa Jal. And I give him the glad tiding that Allah Azza wa Jal had accepted, inshallah, and will accept his repentance. First of all, the Prophet ﷺ told us that if one of you oversleeps or forgets a prayer, he should pray it the minute he remembers it. There is no compensation for that except praying it the minute he remembers it or he wakes up. Having said that, scholars took the verdict from this hadith and gave the ruling that anyone who misses a prayer deliberately until the following prayer comes, then he cannot and he may not and he must not make qada for it or pray it after the time was over. Why? Because the Prophet stated two reasons: if you oversleep or if you forget, which means that on both of them are not within your intention. It's not something that you can do intentionally. You overslept. It's not my mistake. Or you forgot. And Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't burden us for forgetting. It means that if someone skips prayer intentionally, that he has no excuse. There is no expiation for it. Therefore, those who missed prayers in the past and now they have repented, you cannot and you must not and you should not re-pray these prayers that you've missed, because you did that intentionally. What you can do is ask Allah Azza wa Jal for forgiveness, and you can offer voluntary prayer. night prayer, duha prayer, maintain observing the sunan al-rawatib, which are the 12 rak'ahs throughout the day and night that are preferred, highly preferred and recommended sunnah prayers attached to the 5 obligatory prayers. Once you do this, inshallah, this would compensate.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, I've got a couple of questions here from a sister. The first is regarding performing tawaf. Can you perform tawaf on behalf of someone else, Sheikh?
Actually, what you can do is perform hajj on behalf of someone else, and umrah on behalf of someone else. But to downgrade it into tawaf only, well, this is a small form of worship, and one should not do it, because we're either told to do hajj or umrah. Tawaf, I have never heard people asking about this question, therefore I don't have any knowledge of it. And I believe that it is, though it's part of umrah, it can be performed on behalf of others, but it was not reported from the Salaf, therefore one sticks to the hajj and umrah.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, regarding making prostration, when you come to a certain point in the Quran to make prostration, is this prostration, does it require rather a wudu? Do you have to be in wudu to make this prostration?
There are 2 forms of prostrations in Islam, and that is, other than prayer, that is, the prostration of the recitation, when you come in a certain location in the Quran, and it says that you prostrate. And the prostration of gratitude. And when someone comes to you and says to you that, Alhamdulillah, the operation of your friend or of your loved one has been successful. So you prostrate to Allah Azza wa Jal as a form of gratitude. These 2 prostrations are not prayers, which means they are not initiated with takbir, and they're not concluded with salam. Therefore, they should not be related to prayer, in the sense that you don't have to be in the state of wudu when you perform these prostrations. You don't have to be facing the Kaaba. You can face anywhere else. You don't have to face the Qibla when you prostrate. And for a woman, she does not have to be covering her hair as if she is in prayer, because this is not prayer. Now, having said that, it would be advisable for a person to do this, to have wudu, to face the Qibla, and to cover his body properly as if he's in prayer. But if he does not, alhamdulillah, this is acceptable.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, the last question from the sister is regarding the Fajr Sunnah. Now, you explained earlier the Fajr Sunnah is something which is highly important. The sister is saying, if we've missed this now, can we make this up after the Fajr Salah?
This question was answered by the Prophet ﷺ when, in one incident, he finished Fajr prayer, and after concluding his prayer, he saw a man praying 2 rak'ahs next to a pillar. So, of course, he was not with the congregation. So the Prophet stood next to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he started asking the man, objecting to what he's doing. He's saying, is Fajr 4 rak'ah? Is Fajr 4 rak'ahs? So the man concluded his prayer quickly and said, O Prophet of Allah, the call for prayer was initiated while I was in my house, and I came immediately and I joined you in the congregation. So I did not pray the 2 sunnah rak'ah of Fajr. So after I concluded my prayer, now I'm making it up. I'm making the prayer as I'm supposed to do. So the Prophet ﷺ did not comment. And whenever the Prophet ﷺ does not comment on something, this is an approval. So if the Prophet ﷺ saw his companions eating, for example, something, onions, and he did not eat onions or garlics. So when he saw them eat onions and he did not talk and he did not say anything, this was an approval from him that this is permissible.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, we've got Sister Hala from Egypt next. Sister, you're live and ask her your question, please. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My question, what are the fields of da'wah for the woman? The second question, please, is it allowed for the woman to participate in the Islamic shows on TV?
Okay. Jazakallah khair, Sister Hala. Before we get to Sister Hala's question, I've got a question here from a brother, and it's difficult to actually give to stop taking these kind of questions, because these questions, I think, are maybe about 40% of the questions we get on Ask Huda sometimes. And we do reply to these brothers and sisters, and we give them a lot of advice, but they keep coming back. These kind of questions about chatting and having conversations with the opposite sex, meeting up with people arguing that there's nothing wrong with this. My sheikh said at the local mosque this is allowed and so forth. And this brother gives another one of these questions. He says, what's the problem? Why do you always speak about it in Huda TV and Ask Huda that we're not allowed to speak to the opposite sex? We've got nothing in mind, we just want friendship. Friendship is nothing wrong. So he says, please explain yourself. So, Sheikh, explain ourselves.
Well, this is quite difficult to explain yourself during a Q&A program, because this needs a lot of elaboration. Claiming that all what we want is friendship between the opposite sex, this means that you have a problem with your hormones. You have a problem with your hormones, because a boy cannot have a friendship with a girl unless he has a problem with hormones. Therefore, don't be deceived by Satan's whispers. You chat, you enjoy chatting, you have an objective. And this may be long-term, maybe short-term. Why chat with the opposite sex when you have the same sex to chat with? So there is something fishy. Besides, you always make this okay for yourself, but let's presume that someone wants to chat with your sister, and you know that your sister is chatting with another boy. Is that okay with you? If it's okay, then you have a serious problem. And if it's not okay, then definitely it's not okay for you. Chatting usually leads to something. Exchanging photographs, and then maybe phone calls over the net, voice over IP or whatever, and then it expands a little bit more. Maybe if you are in the same region or town, maybe it leads to a meeting. It's a friendly meeting. It's just a date. I'm not going to do anything. So you presume and hope. But this is not the case. If you are one of the 1% that really don't have a problem with this, what about the 99%? And who classifies you that you are one of those who will not fall into sin? This is exactly what Allah Azza wa Jal had warned us from, and that is not to follow the footsteps of Satan. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. And this is exactly what you are doing, and that is why it is completely forbidden.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Brother Abu Ali from Egypt, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for this wonderful show, and may Allah bless you all.
Barakallah fika.
I have a question, please.
Carry on.
I want to ask about what time shall I give zakat al-fitr, and is it permissible for me to give it money instead of food, and what kind of food that I may give? Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah fika. Barakallah fik. Okay, the brother Abu Ali Sheikh asking about Zakat al-Fitr, something that's going to rise upon us soon. What time? When do we give Zakat al-Fitr?
You skipped Hala's question.
Okay, let's answer Hala's question. Okay, the fields of da'wah.
Okay, the fields of da'wah for women, the sky is the limit. A sister can make da'wah among the sisters themselves. I cannot go to make da'wah among the sisters, because this is not it's not acceptable, and it's not logical when you have sisters that are learned and they have the wisdom of making da'wah. The sisters can also forbid vice, النهي عن المنكر, and that is when you go to souks, when you go to hospitals, when you see women not properly dressed, with a very nice smile, with a booklet, with a cassette, you can always give the advice that is appropriate with Islam. You should do this, and you should try your best to call others, that is sisters, to Islam. You can go online. There are so many chat rooms, but always chat with the same sex. You can make da'wah for non-Muslims. You can do a lot of things. And the sky, again, is the limit. If you have the good intention, you will be blessed wherever Allah Azza wa Jal puts you.
But like you said, keep within the boundaries there.
Of course.
With the same sex.
Yes, do not go and say and follow the footsteps of shaitan and say, well, I'm a good da'iyah, I'm a good woman with knowledge. Why not go to the young boys and young men and call them for Islam? I know that I will not fall into sin. Well, you know, but you don't know if they will be tempted by you.
Barakallah fiqh, Sheikh. And the second question regarding women on TV shows and so forth, she's asking, is this kind of thing allowed?
No, it's not allowed, because women, as Allah Azza wa Jal put them, they should be put in their, they should be away and segregated from men. So if we say that a woman cannot work with men in workplaces, and they should not mix in schools, and they should not mix in hospitals or in universities, and at the end of the day we bring them to mix with men in their homes through TV screens, this is not logical. It is not Islamic. A woman should cover her face, should stay away from temptation, and Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran that they should not soften their voices. Imagine, softening the voice is not permissible in Islam because it may cause fitna for those who have illnesses in their hearts. And also Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran, but we don't read the Quran unfortunately, as stated in Surah An-Nur, that they should not strike or hit the earth with their feet if they're wearing a bracelet in their feet, so that the shackling itself, the noise,
the bracelet itself makes a noise. The anklet,
it would not tempt people when they see a fully covered woman and this noise comes out of her. It's almost exactly the same as if a woman wears high heels and you hear that on the ceramic or whatever, and it has a nice voice to it. Even if she is the ugliest woman on earth, Shaitan throws something in a man's heart, beautifying this woman to him. Therefore, showing women on TV programs, especially Islamic TV channels, is completely forbidden, and it is un-Islamic, it's not logical, and you cannot fool anyone or tempt anyone to come into Islam by showing a covered woman. And because the non-Muslim would say, why do you cover her hair? And then you go and follow the second step of Shaitan, let's show part of her hair. And the third step of Shaitan, let's uncover her hair, but she does not wear makeup and long sleeves. And so on. It goes on and on and on. And you
first you open the door and then
it never closes.
Barakallah fiqh, Sheikh. Okay, next we have Sister Khadija from the United Arab Emirates. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, I have two questions, please.
Okay. Yes, Farah, your questions, please.
First, what about the rulings about the dream interpretations? You know, these days there are a lot of websites which shows, dream interpretations. I would like to know whether there's authentic hadith about that or whatever.
Okay.
And the second question, actually I have a discussion between me and my sisters about holding Quran while a lady is menstruating. So
okay.
Is it haram to touch the Quran while a lady is menstruating, or there's a specific rule about that?
Okay. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah fiqh. Sister Khadija from the United Arab Emirates. Okay, we're going to take a short break now. Please do stay with us. So inshallah we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. People used to fast only, you to break the fast only between Maghrib and Isha. And if after Isha they are supposed to fast. It wasn't all the way until Fajr. My ummah is going to be alright as long as they hasten the breakfast and delay the suhoor.
Man is still man, the same nature, the same requirements, and the same statistics as you see here, even for men and women.
When it comes to managing two families, we have to be financially, they should be happy, and they should be financially taken care of.
What advice from your experience would you give the brothers who are thinking, like Brother Saif,
right,
and for the sisters who are thinking as well, for their husband not to have a second wife?
To know that you have to be righteous in your actions to the best of your ability, as if you're following everything, the Sharia, the Sunnah, according to what the Prophet did and how he acted with his wives and his companions. and how his wives acted with him.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ask Huda. If you want to join us today, please give us a call on 202-38555-248 or 249, or send us an email at ask@huda.tv. Okay, Sheikh, we've got a question here. Actually, we've got somebody waiting. Brother Shakil from the United Arab Emirates. Brother, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have a question regarding fasting. After having suhoor and after having brushed my teeth, there still might be 1 or 2 pieces of food stuck in between the teeth. Sometimes I happen to swallow it just to get rid of it instead of going all the way to spit it out, since it is so tiny. Does that invalidate my fast?
Okay.
Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah fiqh. Brother Shakil from the United Arab Emirates. Okay. Brother Abu Ali from Egypt asked 3 questions. All related to Zakat al-Fitr. So I'll give them to you together and you can split them up. The first is, when do we give Zakat al-Fitr? Can it be money or food? And what type of food if it is to be food?
Well, first of all, Zakat al-Fitr has to be paid before the performance of Salatul Eid. And Salatul Eid, as we know, it's after Fajr prayer on the first day of Shawwal, on the day of Eid. So before that, you must give it. But can you give it on the 15th of Ramadan, for example, because it's before that? The scholars say no. You can pay it 2 to 3 days before Eid. So starting from the 27th onwards of Ramadan, you can pay Zakat al-Fitr, providing that you do not exceed Salat al-Eid. If it's after Salat al-Eid, the time has expired and it would not be Zakat al-Fitr anymore. As for the question, can we pay it in money, in forms of money? The answer would be no. Because the Prophet ﷺ is the one who specified, as in the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, of Ibn Umar, Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with them all, that we pay it and in the form of food. Sa' min ta'am. A sa' of food. And this food, as the scholars say, is what the people eat and are able to store. So any food that you can weigh that is, you can weigh and store, you can use this. So dates would do, wheat would do, and nowadays in the Arab world, rice is the best food they usually consume, so everybody's getting rice as Zakat al-Fitr.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, next we have Sister Aya from Egypt. Sister, you're live and ask her your question, please. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ramadan Karim, brothers.
And to you too, Sister.
I have a question. Because the last Ramadan, I don't make fasting because I was pregnant, and now I was breastfeeding for my baby. Okay. So I make fasting, but sometimes I cannot, I cannot continue because I feel weak and I have a sick anemic. So what should I do in this situation? Okay. And also for the reading Quran, sometimes I cannot read continuously because I have a baby. Sometimes I'm busy. So, it's allowed to play the Quran only by radio or the TV.
Okay.
That's it.
Jazakallah khair. Sister Aya there from Egypt. Jazakallah khair, Sister. Okay, Sister Khadija from the United Arab Emirates. Dream interpretation, it's a big business nowadays. You see people advertising that we can interpret dreams, and on the internet as well, as she says she's seen this stuff. Regarding dream interpretation, what's the sunnah on this, and what's the authentic hadith regarding this kind? Somebody interpreting dreams here.
Well, first of all, if it's a good dream and you enjoy what you see, the Prophet tells you, ﷺ, only to tell it to those who loves you. Only tell it to those who love you, and don't tell it to anyone if it's a good dream. Because usually, whatever interpretation you get, it will come true. Usually. Not always, but this is the norm. If it's a bad dream, the Prophet tells us, do not tell a soul about it. If you wake up not feeling well, being scared or afraid of what you have seen, and you don't feel good about it, the Prophet tells us that this is from shaitan. All what you have to do when you wake up is say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim 3 times, and blow 3 times over your left with some moist. Don't spit, especially if your wife is on your left. So this is not advisable if she's awake. Having said that, this is what should be done. Now, dream interpretation was there when the Prophet ﷺ was there. And he used to interpret it for them. And after every Fajr, he used to say, had any one of you seen a dream? And the companions would say, yes, I've seen this and that. And the Prophet would interpret it to them. Abu Bakr was also among the very famous interpreters of dreams. But to have it in the form as we see it now on TV stations and internet, and it's a mega million business where people say, well, I've seen this, and the guy says, yeah, this means so and so. And people are so connected to it as if it's fortune telling. No, this is not what was intended to begin with interpretation. It was intended to give good tidings to people so that they would, be more optimistic of their lives. But to go and shift into controlling people's lives and running their lives through dreams, this is not the way it should be.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Brother Khulud from the United Arab Emirates. Brother, you're live and ask Huda your question, please.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Sorry, sister.
Ramadan Kareem.
And to you too, sister.
Regarding Zakat al-Fitr.
Yes.
I want to know who is responsible for giving the Zakat. For example, the 3 daughters is already working. So is it the father or the daughters who are working is responsible for giving the Zakat?
Okay.
And
yes, sister.
Regarding that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. Okay, Sister Khulud there from the United Arab Emirates. Okay, if we can get back to this question, Sister Khadija's question from the United Arab Emirates. We did discuss this earlier on, but just a quick reminder regarding reading the Quran for sister on her menses. Is it a yes or no? Is she allowed to do it? Is she allowed to touch the Quran?
The 4 schools of thought say that this is not permissible. And you have to be one of the followers of one of these schools. Therefore, you should not, or you should try your best to avoid touching the Quran. There are other alternatives, alhamdulillah. You can read your Quran from your PDA. Or you can read the Quran from the internet or from your desktop or laptop. You can read the Quran from a commentary of the Quran, where the text is like 30 or 40% of the Quran, that is, and the rest is commentary. So holding this would not be considered as holding the Quran itself.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Brother Shakil from the United Arab Emirates asked about a dilemma. You've just finished eating suhoor, you prayed your salah, you brushed your teeth and everything. Then you find out you've got some food stuck in your mouth. What do? Are you sinful if you swallow this, Sheikh?
Yes, if you can. If you have the ability to take it out, you must take it out. And if you don't, and you swallow it intentionally, it's like eating. So if you have something in your teeth, and you take it out, and instead of spitting it out, it's a small thing. It's not going to harm me that much. This is eating. And it nullifies your fasting. But if it was done unintentionally, in the sense that it is at the back of your throat, and there's no way of getting it out, it's just got there, somewhere or the other, then swallowing it would not nullify your fasting.
Okay, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, we've got Sister Samia from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sister, you're live and ask her your question, please. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
My first question is that I have 2 children, the age of 7 and 5.5. Now we make them fast, and alhamdulillah they are able to fast. It's only during the sahur sometimes that they give me trouble. My question is that sometimes my friends and family say that it is oppressing to make them fast at such a young age. So will they be rewarded, and is it oppressing to make them fast when they are able to do it?
Okay.
And my second question is,
yep.
This is regarding the zakat. A wife can pay zakat to the husband. Can she also pay the zakat to her parents or her grandparents when she knows that the brothers or the uncles are not able to take care of the widowed mother?
Okay.
Did you get it, sir?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, the second question from Sister Aya, Sheikh, was regarding not being able to read the Quran very well. Okay, let's go to her first question. Sorry, I've totally skipped that. She said last year she was pregnant, so she couldn't fast. This year she's breastfeeding, so she's finding it difficult to fast and not fast. How does she go about making up these fasts, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah, if a woman is breastfeeding or is pregnant and she's afraid on her health or on the safety of the child, she may skip fasting that day of Ramadan or these days of Ramadan, and she must make up for these days later on, a year, 2 years, 3 years, whenever she does not have anything to prevent her from fasting, and she doesn't have to feed anything, no expiation, none whatsoever.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, the second question, regarding not being able to read the Quran very well, making mistakes, or, for example, getting tired while reading. Can you play the cassette? Can you follow a cassette or CD to make it easier for you to get same sort of reward? Or
what I understood from the sister, that because she's suckling her child and she is always constantly with it, and she doesn't have time to read, she doesn't have the time and the ability. If this is the case, then listening to the Quran is also rewardable, providing your head and your mind is with it. It's not just a recitation, you don't know what the guy is saying. So if you recite, if you listen to it, yes, inshallah, you're rewarded, but the reward of you reading and following with your eyes is far greater than that.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Sister Khulud from the United Arab Emirates asked a question about Zakat al-Fitr. Who's responsible to pay this? She's got 3 grown-up daughters, they all work. Do they pay for themselves, or does their father pay for them?
Well, usually, though, the person who is in charge of the house pays for it. So if they're living with their father, and the father is the one who's putting the food on the table, he's paying the rent, he's paying the electricity and phone bills, then he's the one who is obliged to give Zakat al-Fitr on those who he support. But if they want, because they are his daughters, if they want to give him a helping hand, if they want to contribute, if one of them says, okay, Father, this year I'll pay for the whole family, and the father approves of this, this is also possible.
Jazakallah. But the responsibility is actually on the one head of the house. Okay. Sister Samaya, from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, had two questions. The first is about her children. 2 children, one 7, one 5.5, both of them fasting, mashallah. They're not finding it difficult. They may find it now and then slightly difficult. She says people are saying I'm oppressing them by making them fast because they have the ability to and they want to. Is this oppression, Sheikh?
Well, as a father, I believe the sister's problem is with suhoor, and that is when she wakes them up to eat the suhoor meal. This is the biggest problem, because they're deep down in their sleep, and they're not willing to, they don't understand to wake and have a sip of water or a couple of dates or so. So that's why it's difficult for her to wake them up. But during the day, alhamdulillah, they have no problems because everybody's fasting and they're enjoying doing it with everyone else. And they feel, grown up when they fast. But we have to put this into consideration. That is, they are still children. It's not obligatory upon them to fast. So we encourage them. We don't want to force them to finish the whole day, or to cause that to backfire on them and they would hate fasting, they would hate Islam. No, this is not the way. You encourage them, you give them the will to eat or drink if they wish, but you encourage them that, listen, if you fast until, let's say, 2 p.m., I'll give you a candy bar. Or I'll give you, well, candy is not good for the teeth. I'll give you a doll, I'll give you something. Give them an incentive. If this is the case, alhamdulillah. But if the kid reaches, if he's 5.5 years old, and at 12 p.m., at 12 noon, he's thirsty, he wants to drink, and you say, no, you cannot, you're fasting. And he's crying, and you're still forcing him not to fast. This is not fair. It's not un-Islamic. Let him break his fast. You train him. And training in Islam is there, because we train children to pray from the age of 7 until the age of 10. Imagine, 5 times a day, throughout these 3 years, you train them to pray, but you don't force them, in the sense you don't spank them, you don't do things that may make them hate Islam or prayer or even fasting. So I don't think that this is a form of oppression. You encourage them, you try your best to give them incentives, and if they fast, alhamdulillah. If they don't, at least they fast 50% or 60% of the day. This is good enough.
Barakallah fiik, Sheikh. Okay, Fatima from Oman, sister, you're live. I'll ask her your question, please. Sister Fatima, are you there?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, sister, your question.
Hi, Sheikh. My name, I naturally have curly hair.
Okay.
So I relax it to make it straighter because it's very hard to maintain.
Okay.
Is it haram?
Okay.
Is it allowed?
Okay. Jazakallah, sister. Sister Fatima there from Oman. Okay, we've got a second question from Sister Samia, okay, regarding zakah, Sheikh. Now, you spoke about certain categories of people who you can pay to. Say if your husband falls into that category, then we spoke about this earlier, if you can pay him. But what about, say, for example, your parents, your grandparents? If they've got no dependents left, no one's willing to look after them, is the sister allowed to pay for her parents and grandparents?
The majority of scholars say that this is not permissible. If you have parents or if you have children that need money, you cannot give them from zakat. You must support them yourself from your own money, but not by giving them zakat, because they are your responsibility. You have to support your parents and you have to support your children if they don't have money. The only time that it is permissible for you to pay your zakat to your parents or to your children is when they have debts on them. Because it's not my obligation to pay my father's debts. It's my obligation to support him. If he doesn't have money, if he doesn't have rent, if he doesn't have enough money to buy food, it's my duty to support him and to give him that money that would do this. But if he took a loan and he cannot pay it back, it's not my duty to give it to him or pay it off him. Therefore, I can give him from the zakah to pay the loan that he cannot pay, and he will be thrown into jail if he doesn't pay it off.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Sister Khairiyya from United Arab Emirates. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ramadan Mubarak.
And to you too, sister.
Yes, I just want to ask if do I always have to make wudu before touching the Quran?
Yep.
Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Okay, that question actually, we had one from the SMS which we were going to ask Sheikh. Regarding touching the Quran, do you need to have wudu for the Sheikh?
Again, the four schools of thought say you have to be in the state of purity, major and minor, whenever you touch the Quran. But as said before, touching the Quran, the cover itself, is not considered to be touching the Quran. So if I'm not in the state of purity of wudu, and I hold the Quran, this is okay. And if I open the cover and I look into the Quran, this is also okay, providing I do not touch the letters, the text of the Quran itself. If I'm holding the edges of the pages and turning them without touching the letters themselves, inshallah, this is permissible and there's no problem in that.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Sister Fatima from Oman said, naturally your hair is very curly, maybe tightly curled. She said she uses some ointment or something to relax her hair. Okay, is this allowed?
This depends on the physicians. If they say that the stuff, the material she's using does not harm her head or her hair, does not cause her hair to fall on the long term, if it's safe, there's no problem in having your hair softened, or if you have a soft hair, to have your hair curled. This is, inshallah, all permissible.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, I've got a question here from a sister. Regarding getting married in Ramadan, are you allowed to get married in Ramadan, Sheikh? Is there a month that you're forbidden to get married in?
There is no month, none whatsoever, that you are forbidden to get married in. No time of the day, no time of the night, but there is a time that you, or a state, that you are not allowed to get married in, and that is when you are in the state of ihram. If you are in the state of ihram, on pilgrimage, you may not propose, you may not get engaged, and you may not get married. After the state of ihram is done, alhamdulillah.
Barakallah fiqh. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for all your answers today. Okay, well, that's all the time we have for you today on Ask Huda. Of course, you can send your questions through your email towards ask@huda.tv. Well, until next time, we both leave you with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
If my love is attached to thee, then from sins I will be free. Each time my heart will beat, your name will resound with heat. Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the the ultimate test. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate